Right, we're here at Koh Mak Seafood, which has got the freshest and tastiest seafood on the island. Let's take a look what we've got. What's in here? Crabs. We've got it here. What's in there? Nothing today. There's a fish. Take a look, take a look. What's in here? Oh, some more crabs. Right, but we're not here for the tasty food today, not only for the tasty food, are we? Why are we here?
For the birds.
To photograph birds. Not just any birds, because obviously wearing blue and white isn't the best colour for photographing birds, unless you're photographing kingfishers. So let's go inside the spot. Come on, let's go. See what we can find. Situated on the southeast of the island, not far from the main pier, Koh Mak Seafood is a lovely restaurant with a wonderful owner and staff. It's the perfect place for a delicious lunch of the freshest crabs, fish and prawns at shockingly low prices. And it's also a great spot to see Brahminy kites and collared kingfishers. Thailand has 16 species of kingfisher, most of which are resident. Including collared kingfishers, I'm lucky to have seen and photographed 6 different species with varying degrees of success. The common kingfisher, the same as the common European species, is a fairly widespread winter visitor. White-throated kingfishers are perhaps the most common here in Thailand and can be found around many coastal areas. Less common, the pied kingfisher is the only species that hovers above its prey before diving and catching. Although only 13 centimetres long, the black-backed kingfisher is equally as effective a killer as its larger relatives. At 37 centimetres, the brown-winged kingfisher is one of the largest, but it is increasingly threatened by habitat loss. And there's a Brahminy kite flying around there in the distance, but that's not what we're here for today. We're here for those collared kingfishers. So let's wander over to the other side nearer the mangroves and take a look. Come on. The tide's quite high, which means that they're probably not going to be fishing. They're a bit lazy, these collared kingfishers, and they prefer to fish in very shallow water for smaller things rather than diving into the water to fish for fish as we'd imagine. Also, it's the heat of the day, so they'll be kind of hanging around in the mangroves there, as they often do. Although kingfishers seem to be quite happy being out in the direct sunlight. It doesn't seem to bother them as much as many birds. But they're certainly not making themselves as visible as usual. Sometimes you have to listen out for them rather than spot them. They've got a very loud, raucous cackle. With swallows flying around. Let's see if we can catch them. Oh, there's one. Okay, so that was one letting me know that it's definitely here, and it's somewhere over there in these mangroves just over here where they hang out. Yesterday they were sitting on this one over here and then flying across to the other one's just over here, and they keep flying between the two. Yesterday when we came, the tide was right down, and they were catching things nearly every flight somewhere in the middle of there, but not so today. Anyway, they're quite easy to find once they make themselves known, and obviously they're not particularly well camouflaged against anything really. So there it is, right in the end mangrove, hidden by the leaves there, but it's right in here where it was yesterday. Can't quite see it. I'm not sure if it's the male or the female, because they both look fairly similar, but by the noise it sounds like it's probably the male. I'll get the big lens on and we'll get some shots. Blue is many people's favourite colour, but in nature it is rare. Most vertebrates are unable to produce blue pigment, and the cyan and blue feathers on kingfishers contain no pigments. These colours are structural, created by the intricate arrangement of a transparent material which, depending on its makeup and thickness compared to the tiny wavelengths of light, produces a range of colours by incident light, in other words, light shining on it. Kingfisher feathers reflect light in a way that scientists describe as semi-iridescent. The feathers of peacocks and birds of paradise are truly iridescent. Iridescence is produced by the ways in which layers of material are aligned and repeated periodically to achieve a shimmer effect. The coloured kingfisher is a medium-sized kingfisher. It is also known as the mangrove kingfisher, and it is a wide range extending from the Red Sea across southern Asia. As a boy, I used to love wandering the Coquet, Wansbeck and North Tyne rivers of my native Northumberland with my father, looking for wildlife like otters, dippers and kingfishers. Some of my fondest memories of time spent in nature with my dad are the times we went looking for kingfishers, usually without any luck. He'd have loved to have seen these beautiful birds here in Thailand.
I don't think that's a stick. It looks like it's got a bit of rope in its beak. Maybe it's going to try a new fishing technique. Can't quite see, but it looks like it's got a bit of hanging rope through its beak. It did a second ago. That would be something to see a kingfisher fishing with a rope.
Birds have two eyelids, upper and lower. Birds active during daytime hours raise the lower lid when closing their eye, and nocturnal birds close the upper lid. But birds also have a translucent, nictitating membrane, sometimes called a third eyelid. The membrane closes across the eye from front to back. When the kingfisher is underwater, it protects its eyes by closing its third eyelid, although it is not actually blind, as the eyelid is transparent. Have you ever seen a kingfisher's third eyelid mid-blink? Well, you have now. The restaurant is almost entirely surrounded by water and mangroves, and with a little manoeuvring and polite smiles, we were able to follow the kingfishers around in the hope of getting better angles and backgrounds. It wasn't always easy, like struggling with obscured views whilst crouching down under shelves and looking through pots and pans and washing. But nobody complained, except perhaps me at myself for not bringing the tripod. In between trips back to the table to join my wife for mouthfuls of coconut ice cream, mangoes and sticky rice, we were able to get a few more good shots before the kingfishers tapped out and made way for another little king. The Pacific swallow is resident across coastal areas of Southeast Asia and islands of the South Pacific. And if the kingfisher is indeed the king of fishes, then swallows probably deserve some title like kings and queens of fast fly-catching flight. They don't have the same folk tale as the swallows my dad and I used to watch in years gone by, but they're just as lovely to see. It's sometimes easy to get overcome by the moment when photographing wildlife, the excitement and the knowledge that you might only have a brief second before something flies, runs or swims off. But you have to remain calm and composed and maintain a balance of alertness and calmness. Breathing properly helps you hold a heavy lens for longer without shaking and clears your mind to focus on the here and now. And then you can consider elements that make a good shot great. Can I use a slower shutter speed to lower the ISO? Can I open the aperture wider for better bokeh? Am I just frantically snapping away, or have I dropped myself down to eye level? Can I move slightly to recompose better? Through mindfulness and experience, all of this happens in the blink of a shutter. tide had now receded and the kingfishers returned, and although I still wasn't able to get the shot I wanted most, of them taking something from the water, I did manage to get a couple of mediocre shots of these stunning birds in flight. And then, as the afternoon drew on and the light changed, I was able to get my favourite kingfisher shot of the day, one that for me stands out as the best. We'd come with a specific intention of photographing the kingfishers, along with enjoying a good lunch, but as is often the case, there was one more bigger surprise in store for us. I turned away from the kingfisher. Don't ask me why, I can only describe it as instinct, and even with my less than decent eyesight, I was sure I knew what I could see in the distance, perhaps a kilometre away, beyond the pier, approaching quickly but fairly effortlessly 30 metres or so above the water. I recognised the deep V in its glide between powerful beats of broad wings, and hastened to alert my daughter Rihanna. I don't think that anyone minded us rushing between tables to get across the restaurant. I could immediately see that I would mess up getting video footage, and quickly decided to concentrate on getting shots, so all I have to share, video-wise, are these final moments of the majestic raptor heading off into the distance, and then nothing but clouds as I lost sight of it trying to handhold the 500mm lens in bright light. We did get a few decent shots though, I think. Like many raptors, the white-bellied sea eagle female is slightly larger than the male, can measure up to 90 centimeters long with a wingspan of up to 2.2 meters and weigh 4.5 kilograms. Resident from India through Southeast Asia to Australia, these birds breed and hunt near water, usually coastal, and fish form around half of the diet. Opportunistic, they also consume carrion, eels, snakes and smaller animals. Their numbers have declined in parts of Southeast Asia, such as Thailand, and in some places they're ranked as threatened or vulnerable. Human disturbance to habitat is the main threat, both from direct human activity near nests and from removal of suitable trees for nesting. Every time I'm fortunate to see them, I'm reminded that no matter how big, powerful and revered they are, they cannot fight back against human activity. And I remember how important it is that we protect them and their habitats before they fly away forever.
Absolutely incredible. Came in close. So close, and they're so big that if you have the group focus on like I tended to with flying birds like that, it often locks on the wings or the neck or even the beak, and that's enough to put the eyes slightly out of focus. It's really hard to get the focus point on the eye without it just touching another part of the bird, and as I say, because they're so big, that can be a matter of 10, 20, even 30 centimeters difference on the focus. Anyway, I think I got a few decent shots. I'll put them in. But I frantically flapped around trying to get the video. Couldn't see the screen in the bright light. Completely missed it, but what a sight. Ah, oh, fantastic, absolutely beautiful. That's twice in one day. But it's flown off over that direction there, straight ahead, over that peninsula of the island, and coming in from that direction now is a massive thunderstorm. It is as hot as Hades and the air's stuffy, so I'm expecting a lot of rain coming now. But what a great day, what a great surprise to see that white-bellied seagull, not once but twice, and it came in twice right over the top of us, looking at the camera as if it knew that I was desperate to see it again. Absolutely incredible.
But amazing as that moment was, there was something even more special for me about the day. When I bought the Nikon D500 last year, I gave my D5600 to my daughter Iona, and then bought her a 70-300 lens as she was showing an interest in wildlife photography. She hasn't looked back since. Although she still has a lot to learn about composition, light and the technical aspect of how the camera works, Iona has an excellent eye and sees both wildlife and the shot quickly. The way she sees things, what she sees and how she relates to it, allows her to produce her own original interpretations and shots, and her ability to lock focus on the eye, even with more limited gear, a shorter lens and the single spot focus set on her camera is exceptional. And this ability gave her what, in my view, is the best shot of the day. Just look at how well she has focused on the eagle's eye, and how well she has managed exposure and composition. A beautiful shot, and one that her granda would have been proud of, for so many reasons. And when she showed me the shots that she'd taken, I not only felt proud of her as any parent would, but I wished that she'd had my bigger lens on her camera, because passing something you love on to your children is a truly wonderful thing. And I also realised why, all those years ago, it never really mattered to my dad that we invariably didn't see a kingfisher on our outings. Because in the same way as I always say that getting a great shot is a bonus, and that it's above all the joy of simply being out there, for him, I guess it really was about simply being there together, experiencing the beauty of nature.